So, estate planning might be something that you've thought of or heard of before and thought, well, that sounds interesting. Maybe I need to think about my estate and the transfer of my wealth that I've built during my lifetime to my children or the next generation or to a charity that I'm concerned about. But maybe it's taken a back seat on your radar like many other Americans. About 30% of people have actually done planning for their estate transfer. And of those 30%, about 90% of those are typical generic plans that really don't work very well. What we look at with estate planning is we want to make sure that you have a plan that works, a plan that helps you to be able to protect your assets while you're alive, transfer them to the next generation, protect them and preserve them, allowing you to not have to go through probate, which is when the state sets up its estate plan for you, and that's often lengthy and costly process. We want to make sure that you understand how valuable and meaningful an estate plan with a trust can be for you in your situation. Now, one of the main questions that somebody asks is, well, isn't that just for somebody who's much older? Or isn't that just for somebody who's built up a lot of wealth and they have a lot of money, or they're rich and they have money to transfer? Well, first of all, we want to make sure that estate planning is something that you are aware of is valuable at every stage and every season of life. As a younger couple, you might be thinking about having life insurance that would cover raising your children if you were no longer here available to do that. That would mean that you have this asset that will help them to have a financial start if you're not there to continually work and provide that. Well, an estate plan would then house that life insurance policy because your children would not be old enough to receive the death benefit themselves. That's one reason why a young family may look at estate planning. During the middle season of life, many people are business owners and they want to protect that asset of their business and allow for the transfer of the business, whether they were disabled or passed away suddenly, and they want to make sure that the business is able to continue on. There's also planning for the end of life, which is your elder law, and that involves Medicaid spend down and making sure that you have the successful transfer of your assets. Now, estate planning not only minimizes taxes, but it allows what you want to happen to actually happen. Most people want to be in control, and we think about it. It's easy to be in control when we're mentally and physically competent to be able to provide our wishes and control our own financial affairs. But whether we become incapacitated through disability or death, we want to be able to have that control transfer forward. Now, another piece of estate planning that you may never have considered is there's a huge amount of your wealth that is not just financial. And we want to make sure that that wisdom and the vision that you have built through your life is something that you're also able to pass on to your heirs. Estate planning is something that is valuable for everyone at every season of life, and you want to think through your specific situation, your needs, your aspirations, your goals, and really have an attorney who is competent and able to walk you through that process to understand your needs and design an estate plan that specifically fits what you want to happen. The next step is to make sure that it's properly funded. And instead of just handing you documents to say, well, here is how you title all of your assets yourself, you want somebody who is willing to walk through that process with you and ensure that they've signed off that they actually have been titled appropriately so that your wishes can be carried out. You also want somebody who is willing to meet with you on an ongoing basis as you have life changes, asset changes, property purchases, changes in your family dynamics, whether through divorce or death, and you want to make sure that as you evolve as a family, that your estate plan does that as well. And then having the connection between other advisors that are communicating so that you don't just have your financial plan sitting independent of your estate plan. You want those meshed together so that both your attorney and your financial advisor know your desires, know what you want to have happen, and are working together to make sure that that's in place for you. The other thing to think about with estate planning is that often at the death of a person in a family, there's usually a discord and challenges that rise to the surface as the family proceeds to try to figure out how to distribute the estate fairly and efficiently, how to carry through on the wishes that their parents or loved one in the family expressed, and how to interpret everything going forward. It can create a lot of tension. And because we know that that tension exists, it's often easier to be something that we push to the side and we ignore at this season of life. It's even questions like, well, if something were to happen to us, who would we want to take care of our children? What family dynamic do we want to have in place? And really agreeing and putting a plan in motion. So walking right into the middle of that tension and conflict now, when you're not in a grieving period or a process, when you're on this side of being proactive, is very effective and helpful for you. Because what actually happens is when you have those unanswered questions and the unknown looming before you, there's that anxiety that's beneath the surface you may not necessarily be aware of, but those unanswered questions lead your mind to think about them more and take up more of your mental space and energy. It's more effective to go ahead and answer those questions now. What would happen? Who would be the executor of the will? Do we have a trust in place? Who would take care of our children? Who would manage the estate? How would the assets be distributed? And these are questions that you can answer, but maybe you've never been asked before, and you need somebody to help lead you through that question process so that you can determine what you really want to happen. And that's the value of working with an attorney that really has that experience, but really cares about making sure that the plan is custom designed to meet your specific needs. With an effective estate plan, you also want to have some type of training for the person receiving the benefits or receiving the trust in the estate. Imagine this for a moment. Imagine a family has built up family wealth and they have the ability to provide loans to family members who have a specific loan request and intend to pay that back. Maybe these loans are for education or weddings or the purchase of a first home or for a business to launch and start, maybe to purchase a franchise or to start a brand new business. And these assets that are within the family then will have this ability to transfer on to the next generation. This is how you can maintain family wealth. But along with that transfer of dollars, there has to be a very clear guideline for how to manage that effectively so that it stays intact. It's the same even on a smaller scale. If you said, well, here's a death benefit, or here's the sum of all of my retirement assets and my home and all of the money that I have saved up in the bank and my life insurance, if that was the transfer of wealth that you're looking at, you still want to have some training or requirements or stipulations set up in advance for the people who will receive that wealth in order to make sure that it's managed well. And if this is something important to you, as it probably is through the wisdom and knowledge that it took you to build that wealth in the first place, you want to make sure that the person receiving the wealth has that ability to manage it well and maintain that so that they can use that as a seed to create their own harvest in their life. And this is why it's really important to make sure that the whole family is involved in the process. It's not just something where you jot down your wishes on a piece of paper and know that that's going to be carried forward. It's really a whole family planning process. And as we implement that, we want to make sure that we're all able to answer those challenging and difficult questions about what our value systems are and how we maintain and perpetuate that wealth. So this is a great part of the estate planning conversation because wealth is not just about your money. And it really is about thinking differently and having those thinking exercises that expand your mind to what the possibilities are, and then really courageously enter those conversations that we'd really rather never have, but we're all going to have to face at some point. And if we don't face them for ourselves, our loved ones will have to make decisions for us in our absence once we're gone, and really to maintain the integrity of the strength of that family relationship and the strength of the wealth that we're transferring. We want to have holistic conversations around it and really proactively plan so that we can maintain that control and continue to build wealth throughout generations. Hey, thanks for watching. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, click the link in the description box below for more information. Like this video, share your comments, questions, and feedback in the comments section, and don't forget to hit subscribe to our YouTube channel.